Okay, so the purpose of this video is I had a meeting with Alex and Blake earlier. They informed me that they'd like to have a recorded video. I have found that recording videos to YouTube is right now the best option for me. I haven't had as many problems with YouTube as I've had with a couple of other platforms. And also YouTube is fairly accessible, and I like that. So let's say you have a drawing. Go ahead and say, I'm gonna create some lines. Okay, let's say that's a roadway or something, a profile view or something. First of all, in a brand new CAD drawing, what you're going to want to do is right-click on a layout, go up to New Layout. Nope, sorry. Right-click on a layout, go to From Template. Now what that'll do is it'll pop up this Select Template from File window. You can go in here, click Sheet Sets. Go into Sheet Sets. Here's where your standard AutoCAD drawing templates are. I would say just go ahead and use Civil Imperial. It's basically the same as Architectural Imperial, but we'll use that one instead. So hit Open. It says it's a D-size piece of paper. I believe D-size is 24 by 36. We go in here now, you will see that you've got the template on the right. It's got sheet number, it's got project values, all of these are editable values. If you don't really want to go in and edit them, if you would like to, well, and you don't want to have to figure out how to do it right. I hate to say this, but there's a wrong way of doing it. If you double click on these, you can actually go in and physically edit these. So say in the first project value is this is City of Crete. The second value is 18th Street. Just have to select that apparently. 18th Street paving design. And then this one I'm just gonna delete and then delete. Then okay. Now this has the title up here, which I didn't change, but you can go through and edit all of these. If you don't want to, or if there's something you don't know how to fix, you can easily break this and create your own template just by clicking on this template, which selects the entire thing, and typing the word explode. It's not the world's greatest thing. You'll notice that these all broke when I did that. So did this. Everything breaks. However, it gives you the ability to actually go in, change names, numbers, and everything without having to use that format. So again, not the best solution, but it is a solution if you need it. So FYI. Now, as soon as you get this drawing up and you've filled out this piece the way that you want it, what I would suggest doing before you do anything else is go into Layout, up here in your Layout tab, and click on a rectangular view. And then I would create a rectangular view. Let's see, I'm going to make this one go. It's not quite the entire space. This creates a viewport, a rectangular viewport. Kind of what you want. It's selectable. If I were you, first thing I would do after you create a viewport is go into your layer properties from your home tab, go into layer properties, create a brand new layer and call it viewport. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of this to a color that I do not want to have ever print, which is going to be a very bright purple. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the printing on this too. So I changed the color, called this, created a brand new layer called the viewport, made it purple, turned off the printing. Okay, now what that does is if I go into this viewport now and I select viewport, I put the box that this viewport is in purple. The actual viewport box will now show up as purple in the drawing, telling me where my viewport is. But when I go to print it, the viewport, this purple line will not show up. That's the whole purpose of clicking the do not print mark in the layer properties. Okay. So now if I go in and I were to plot this, I'm going to plot it to the AutoCAD high quality PDF print through the printer. I'll hit OK. It'll have me save. I'm just going to go ahead and save this to the desktop. Delete it later. What you'll notice now is that this PDF drawing that I just created does not have the boundary. It only has the line that I drew in the drawing. Okay, and all these properties are already set up in the way that it looks very nice and professional. Let's see if I can zoom in on this quickly. There's zoom tools. There it is. I zoom in on this. The drawing looks very professional. Lines are crisp. You do have a produced by an AutoCAD student version on the side. That's something that we can't really help. We can crop that off, but we can't really help it right now. I know how to crop that off too. It's kind of a cheater way of doing it, but if we need to. And this shows up exactly the way you want it to look. So that's plotting to a file. And I'm going to click on this. I don't even like looking at it with a grid background. I don't know if you like to. If I double click on this, I'm now in model space. You'll notice that double clicking on it creates this command, M space. It means I'm in model space. If I double click outside of that rectangle, it now issues a command saying P space, that's paper space. Paper space is where you edit the actual templates, where you make changes to the layout of the page. Model space, when I double click in here, I am actually physically changing and moving around the model inside of the view. Now, if you were, let's say you had drawn multiple sections of a roadway on top of each other, everything, all the lines line up and everything. For most civil engineering drawings, what you do is you would have multiple layers. Like you'd have a sub 1 layer, a curb layer, a telephone line layer, a tree layer. A lot of different layers are included in this document. What you would do for that, let's say I'm going to go in here, I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I'm going to say this is new layer. I'm going to call this curb layer. I'm going to call this foundation layer. I'm going to call this maybe we do have some sewer pipe layer. I'm going to go ahead and call this one a tree layer. Okay, now what I can do is I can actually insert each of those objects in their respective layers. You can give them different colorations too if it helps you to distinguish. I can make trees be a dark green. You want them to be a dark color so that they show up on a white background. Maybe I'll make the sewer pipes be a dark blue color. And I will make the foundations be a bit of a more of a darker orange color. Okay, maybe my curb, I can make this be a red color. Okay, so got kind of a spectrum of colors to deal with, but it'll help me distinguish what each individual object is. let's say this is the roadway, so I didn't come up with a roadway layer. I'll call this roadway. And I'll leave that as white, which shows up on this background as black. So let's say this is the roadway. I'm going to create an offset distance of this, and then basically build a curve on both sides of the roadway. Let's assume that this looks pretty. I'll go ahead and put these in the curb layer. You'll notice that they show up as red. They print as red. Everything about these show up as red. It's great. Now let's say I have a few lines in here that I don't want to show the fact that the sewer line goes from here to here. Okay. If I don't want that to show up, it's a sewer pipe. If I don't want that to show up in this view, because maybe this view is only about curbs, then what you can do is you can actually, while you're in the model space inside of a drawing, if you click on layer properties, there's a right side of your layer properties that are specific to viewports. This is how colors show up inside of a viewport. Okay, so if I don't want these to be black, I don't want this to be red, I don't want this to be orange, I don't want these to be different colors, I want them all to be black, you can actually change the colors here. Here, the most important thing that we have is we have this viewport freeze option, which allows you to basically turn off a layer inside of a viewport. So I don't want to be able to see the sewer pipes, so I'm going to freeze the sewer pipes layer. Now if I go back in here, the sewer pipes don't show up. Going back to the model view, the sewer pipes are still there. Going back into the curbs view, they're not. So yeah, make sure that if you would like to leave a comment, I'll keep checking up on here. Otherwise, you can actually text me. That may be better than leaving a comment while I'm making this video. So that's just a few of the options that AutoCAD gives you as far as actually editing a viewport, putting in viewports, making them look nice. You want this page to look professional, but the nice thing is you get to define a little bit of your professional. Every company has a different way that they do things. We're working with JEO on these drawing sets. JEO does not do things the same way that Olson does. I actually prefer the way Olson does. So if I were you, I would just try to copy the way that Olson does things. You can edit this however you want. You can change this to be something else if you really want to. What I would suggest you do once you get all of this set up, all of your layers set up, you have a viewport inserted in, you have this set in the viewport layer, is I would go ahead and copy this layout multiple times. So this is called curbs, but I go ahead and copy it several times. I can actually copy all three of these now just to go faster. Nope, I cannot. Okay. What you're going to want your first page to be is you're going to want this to be a title page. Okay. This is just like on the Olson document, just like on the document that I gave you from last semester. The first page really discusses what the purpose of these details are. Second page is the variable. If you follow the plan we were given by Palmeretta, were made by the second page that they have begins really discussing road locations, sizes, dimensions. One of three. A lot of the project notes on it. And then we have a name to the page. I haven't I'm not as familiar with the Olson pages, but whatever you do for the second page, make sure to name it down here at the bottom. Some names that make sense to you, but that also describe what your pages are. It'll just help you keep them consistent. Now, another suggestion that I do have is when you go to make dimensions on this drawing, if you make dimensions, if I go into my model space and I make dimensions in here, that's fine and great, dandy. I mean, those dimensions are pretty and everything, but and they will look a little bit small because this is a 24 by 36 inch page. Keep that in mind. But if I make dimensions in the model layer, those dimensions show up here. That's not really very good. You don't want dimensions on this because it's going to really clutter up this drawing. Instead, what you're going to want to do is don't do dimensions in the model space. Instead, do your dimensions on paper space. You can get the exact same dimension. It shows up as the exact same dimension, but here you can actually modify your dimension style so that it shows up consistently on every page. Dimensioning things in the paper space is not a privilege that I grew up with when I first learned AutoCAD, but it is an extraordinarily powerful tool that lets you have consistent, standardized dimensions that you can put on every single page. You don't have to try to modify those dimensions in any way. That's just a suggestion I give to you. Putting your dimensions on here, you can quickly go in. If I go into the Annotate tab, go into my dimension styles. Here it's just this corner down at the bottom. By the way, Blake, you're doing this on a Mac, and Mac interfaces for AutoCAD are very, very different from Windows, and I don't think that it is nearly as powerful. I would suggest doing this all on a Windows computer, and all you would do is just draw stuff and send it to Alex. Alex, if you don't have a Windows computer, we're in danger. Because it's really best done on a Windows. So here, if you need to modify the dimension style, click dimension style, you go into standard, which is what we're using, go into modify. I have a certain dimension style that I like. You can make it a little bit bigger if you want by going into the fit tab. There's an overall scale of maybe 1.5, make it 1.5 times bigger. I wouldn't go a ton bigger than that because if you do remember, the dimension command when I did that, so it didn't say anything. Do remember that this sheet will show up live scale about this big. So we're looking at 24 inches. That dimension is kind of big for 24 inches. So it will appear a little small, zoomed out. It's okay if that's the case. It doesn't hurt me any. It doesn't hurt you any. We can also talk about how to put in different types of dimensions if you want them. Talk about that. Another thing that I wanted to point out to you, which I'm sure is important, is I went ahead and I created a folder inside of your folder called surveying data. I'm going to go ahead and save this as a Google Sheets file. Delete the Excel file because now you can actually work with this. This is the raw data text file that I was given by Tyler. This is the edited text file, though what I did was I went in here, I removed all of the extra spaces, and I put just what you need. So this is X, Y, and Z coordinates. Here, this is height off of basically a 0 point that is created. I believe it's at the bottom right corner of the state. All of these dimensions are given in feet. This is your your X position, your Y position. This is your vertical distance. We have a very, very flat road. The highest you get in any variation on any of these points is about 1 or 2 feet at the most. Incredibly flat. That can be a good thing. It should make this a lot easier for you to work with. Some of your points also didn't have any labels on them. I didn't know what to do with those. You will have to figure those out. A lot of times we need to take these points now and export them and put them into a CAD file. How do you actually put them in here? So let's say we're trying to make the side projection of your view that shows a roadway profile. Okay, and I just want to show the existing roadway profile. Maybe I go to see, where are edge roads, front curbs main, center of road. Okay, so I got all these points. I'm going to go ahead and copy these points from here to here. Hit Control Copy, create a brand new sheet. Let me call this center of road. Go ahead and paste. Now those are all of your data points. These are unnecessary. Okay. These are also unnecessary now because I already know exactly what these points are. So this is your X, Y, Z points. What I'm going to do is I am going to connect these strings together. Okay, so now this is an X, Y, Z coordinate, all separated by commas. This is something that we can copy and paste directly into AutoCAD. Okay. Yes, now we're getting into weird AutoCAD things. This is nice, great, wonderful, beautiful, awesome. The elevations right now, let's say all we want are the elevations and your X coordinate. So you want to be able to see how far along the roadway, or I guess it would be more like the Y coordinate. How far along the roadway each of these points are. So let's say instead of that, I'll just do a concatenate. So this will be your distance along the roadway. And this will be your elevation. Okay. Right now I'm trying to take the points that you have and create a profile view of them. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all of these. This is all just a text file that shows where these points are. If you want to zero out these points so that they're a little bit nicer, that might be easier. Dang it, I should have done that for you. You know what, I'm going to do that for you. Let's say equals this minus this function F4, which basically means pick that file. I'll go ahead and drag that over. Here, instead of that one, here I want this to be. Okay, so I've just created a 0. Should have done this before. I've just created a 0 line. So now this just shows, okay, we're moving this many feet in the Y direction, which currently is along the roadway. We're moving this many feet in the X direction. We're moving this many feet vertically. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and change this. Doing the zeroing out these values means that your very first point for your center of your roadway starts at 0, 0, 0. We would have to make sure that if we do this, if we import any other points, we have to make sure that we're subtracting these 3 exact values, or that you're copying and pasting to something similar. But that's up to you. So now I've got these general points, which are in gigantic coordinates. I'm just going to go ahead and change this now to, instead of B and C, this is going to be E and F. So now I'm dealing with much nicer coordinates. Even though you collected the data and those are correct, we have the ability to move stuff in AutoCAD, and we do not require our drawing to be at 200, let's see, that's 2.4 million in the Y direction. We don't need that. That is excessively large. So we're just going to use, I would just use this instead. You can just use the straight coordinates if none of this makes sense to you. I just like doing this because I like small numbers. Okay, I will now go back into AutoCAD, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type the word point. You type the word point, and then you paste. No, it's supposed to be point, and then right click, paste. It will insert all of the points that we just copied and pasted from the Excel file. At least it's supposed to. It's thinking. Okay, so I just created a bunch of points, and I don't know where they are. I'm going to go ahead and zoom, extents, zoom into where everything is. Look. Oh, I only created one of my points. I want just one. Tell you what, I'm going to figure out how to do multiple points, and I will fill you back in on that video later. For right now, focus on getting these layouts. You'll have one layout entirely for profiles. You can start filling that one out right away. Make sure that you have a consistent title block between each of the pages. You want that to look nice. If you want to put in layers for each of your individual objects that you're putting in, that's fine with me. It will make it easier to separate out later if GAEO wants us to do that. But that's a conversation for another day. All right. I guess then the next time I send you a video, it's going to show you how to paste multiple points. I'm doing something wrong, and it's going to take me 15 minutes to figure that out. I'm not going to waste your time watching me on video. So have a good rest of your day. I will see you guys on Wednesday.